They'll be attending the 6th annual Halo Art Reach auction, which uses local artists' work and the Halo Foundation to raise money for charity. If this proposition is passed, it would make the very land I'm standing on right now more expensive. Currently, it's only 50 cents, but under the proposition, it would be somewhere between $1 and $2 depending on the type of construction. The main issue so far is that wind. What it's doing is blowing that snow across the road, and it's really obscuring what you're being able to see. It's hard to tell if it's just wet roads or if there's some ice. The rain may be gone, but you may not be able to tell it by looking at the roads. If you look at the road behind me, it's actually completely covered by water. In a local election, Citizens for a Better Columbia spent $78,000 to shoot down Proposition 2. That's equivalent of spending $5 per no vote. The other side only spent $5,000, and that's equivalent of spending less than 2/4 per vote, while also working with the units that are nearest to the emergency, all the while making sure they make the right type of response. All of this in just a matter of seconds. According to the Federal Reserve, 11% of the male workforce is missing. These able-bodied men, aged 25 to 54, are either unemployed or not looking for work. So I simply wanted to know why. I decided to start my search like any man trying to find work, looking through the classifieds. After a couple of hours, Tiger Towing agreed to talk to me. They lamented filling open positions isn't always easy.
It takes probably about a month or so to find a decent driver, you know.
I wanted to know how hard of a gig driving was, so I took a ride. There was plenty of lifting, pulling, and driving. Hard work for $10 an hour plus commission. Well, according to some reports, potential employees think work like this is just too hard, and they think they can have the same type of lifestyle drawing unemployment benefits. Debates, though, disagrees.
I really don't understand it. I mean, I think you'd want to be more active. I think you'd want to be more productive with your life. I mean, you want to lead an example for your kids if you've got kids, you know.
So I tried the job for myself. Lifting, heavy, pulling, and driving. And, well, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. Man, I was working for like 5 seconds. My hands are dirty. Got a hangnail. Life's tough. The job may be hard, but it's still a job, and Debates has a team of drivers who are up to the task. He says I'm not good enough to join them yet. So in the meantime, I'll work on my driving. The secret to success can be hard, but there's no foolproof way to win every single time. But a way to improve your chances? Well, if you use yesterday's election as a clue, it's spend more than the other guy. This fall, our TVs were flooded with campaign commercials.
Missouri's most independent legislator, John Wright.
Sometimes the money and the results don't correlate, but other times they can show a telling tale. That was the case in the race between Republican Chuck Basie and Democrat John Wright. The two spent more than $237,000 combined on TV commercials. Basie spent 51% of the total funds and received 51% of the vote. State representative races were not the only ones to see money flood to advertising. Amendment 3, which would have linked teacher pay with student performance, saw more than $100,000 in anti-amendment advertising, even though the supporters of the amendment dropped out months ago. Sometimes political experts say money can sway voters.
10, that was a complex piece of legislation. Most people probably still don't have any idea what it really involves. But I think the repetition of the ads managed to swing it in favor of the people who were pushing that.
The Missouri Club for Growth paid $78,000 for these advertisements, which helped Amendment 10 gain 57% of the vote and change the system of checks and balances in the state of Missouri's budget for the foreseeable future. Missouri may have the most lax ethics laws in the country. Missouri is the only state where lobbyists can make unlimited campaign contributions and give gifts to lawmakers. Now, the defense has always been that the money is reported and clearly visible, but we found that's just not the case. $1.8 million. That's how much money lobbyists gave in the way of food, tickets, airfare, and other gifts through the last legislative term. Gifts accepted by individual lawmakers go on the record, but gifts going to groups like committees do not. And group contributions are on the rise. A recent St. Louis Public Radio report found 3/4 of gifts given by lobbyists were to groups, up 15% from last year. This means a lobbyist can take out an entire committee, but the dinner will never show up on the lawmaker's individual records.
Yeah, I think there's probably been isolated cases,
right,
where there's been a couple of abuses.
Which is a good thing, because Barget and Associates pumped almost $60,000 in gifts last legislative term, including dinners with more than $1,000 tabs for committees like professional registration and licensing, utilities, economic development, and 6 other committees, for a final price tag of more than $25,000, none of which will appear on a lawmaker's record.
I can tell you, I've never been at a dinner that I've hosted or been there with some other people where somebody said, okay, we've ordered our dinner. John, tell us what it is you'd like for us to do tomorrow.
So what's their purpose?
What most of them buy, if you will, at most, is access. It's the ability to come by and talk to a member of Congress, state legislator, staff member about a piece of legislation.
These dinners usually center around establishing connections with lawmakers. The biggest spenders are a virtual who's who of the state. Ameren spent the most money of any group last term, including a $16,000 meet and greet with Westinghouse CEO for the entire General Assembly. Westinghouse and Ameren partnered together for the Callaway nuclear power plant. And John Barget and Associates, grouped with other lobbying organizations, spent more than $346,000 on gifts for lawmakers. But lobbyists like Barget say just because the perception is bad doesn't mean reality is.
Things that I work with in Jefferson City, both people that I work with and people that I work against, are quite honestly some of the most honorable, decent people that I've ever had the privilege of meeting.
Barget says gifts aren't the best motivators.
I mean, the power of a local constituent is much greater than any of the perceived power that people believe lobbyists have.
But what about the lawmakers? Even with the less reporting, some lawmakers still rack up the gifts. Senator Kiki Curls took the most last term, including 19 separate ticket gifts from lobbyists, adding up to almost $3,400 of free tickets to things from baseball games to a Miami Heat basketball game in Kansas City and more. Senator Ryan Silvey took the second most, all the while being the vice chairman of the Governmental Oversight and Fiscal Responsibility Committee. And Senator Tom Dempsey, the vice chair of the very committee an ethics reform bill would have to be heard, received almost $45,000 since being elected in 2007. But just because they accept gifts, is that a problem?
If all this information comes to light and the citizens of that district do not believe that there's anything wrong with it, and there's no laws have been violated, and they keep re-electing Representative Snort, with all due respect, the last time I checked, we were in America, and that means the majority rules.
And Barget is right. All these gifts are legal. And year after year, ethics bills about gifts and contributions have been filed only to die in the Missouri legislature. Some fail because they go too far, while others because they don't go far enough. Another round of ethics bills will be filed this year, and it might get some unexpected support.
The more transparency, the better for everybody.
A new Commerce Department report